Berkshire Hathaway recently released its 13F filings for the most recent quarter, and here were the biggest moves that Warren Buffett's company has made during the past quarter. So first up is it revealed its investment in Chubb. People knew that Berkshire had bought shares of a company, but they weren't sure which one, and so it was unveiled that it was Chubb. So that was by far the biggest development because Chubb has already taken up a sizable portion of Berkshire's portfolio now, $6.7 billion. And if you know anything about Buffett, he loves insurance companies. They have predictable earnings, and Chubb in particular has strong financials, so it's a fairly safe business to invest in, and not off-brand for Berkshire in terms of safety, in terms of looking for long-term and predictability. So that is by far the biggest move for Berkshire this past quarter. Next up, Berkshire's cut its investment in Apple by 13%. However, this is likely more to do for tax reasons than anything else, but Buffett still loves Apple. It's still a significant holding in Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio, so it's not really any indication that he thinks Apple's on the wrong path or that it's too expensive or that it's not worth hanging on to. So this is more just probably to do with freeing up some cash potentially and for tax reasons, but not any alarm. It just makes headlines because it's a 13% stake. That's a pretty significant reduction for Berkshire. Next was that Berkshire sold its stake in Paramount. So this was news that investors already knew of earlier in the month when Berkshire had its annual meeting, and Buffett said that we lost quite a bit of money on Berkshire and that the company sold its entire stake in the business. So Paramount has been doing well. It's been nosediving, and obviously competition in among streaming companies has been really intense, so it hasn't been doing well, and so they figured to cut their losses. So that was a pretty big move for Berkshire. Next up was its sale of HP shares. So Berkshire has been reducing its stake in HP for a while now, but finally this time around they dumped them off entirely and got rid of whatever they had remaining. So HP is another company that has been doing well. Demand for PCs isn't all that strong right now with inflation high and people perhaps waiting for a new wave of AI computers before they buy up PCs right now. So it hasn't been doing well, and so not a huge surprise that Berkshire finished dumping HP shares. So here's a summary of the moves in total in terms of movement in shares. So Liberty Media is a tracking stock of SiriusXM, so that's really not a huge change in terms of overall position. I mean, there was an increase in stock, but whether it's a dump in Sirius or an increase in Liberty Media, it's still roughly the same type of position. It's still a fairly small chunk of Berkshire's overall portfolio, but in terms of share count, you can say it was the biggest increase. Then there was Chubb in the second spot. Then we've got Occidental, which is another fairly sizable holding for Berkshire. That was offset by a reduction in Chevron, another oil and gas company. So not a huge difference in terms of shares when you net these two out in terms of positions. Other big moves, obviously we've got HP, Paramount, and Apple. So those rounded out the biggest moves for Berkshire this past quarter. So what does that mean for Buffett's overall portfolio? This is Berkshire's portfolio as of now. So Apple is still firmly in top spot at just under 40% of the total portfolio. So even with the reduction in the share count, it's still by and large Berkshire's largest holding. Nothing's close to there. You can see Bank of America in second spot, but only at 10.7%. Then American Express just under 10%. Coca-Cola, Chevron, Occidental, Kraft, Moody's, Mitsubishi, and then you get to Chubb at 1.9%. So the new stock is already a pretty sizable portion of the portfolio. There's a lot of investments in Berkshire's portfolio that are less than 1%. So even so we've got Liberty stocks, Liberty Sirius. So even though that was a fairly big move, it's still fairly minor in terms of Buffett's overall portfolio. That's why I say it wasn't a really big movement for the company. So a lot of other stocks, we've got more Liberty stocks down here, but overall these are pretty minor positions for Berkshire. The big ones are these ones right here, and that's why it's Chubb is the more notable one just because it's already jumped up into one of those top holdings of more than 1%. But overall, nothing really huge in terms of developments. This time around, the biggest one was definitely Chubb. Buffett seems to be a bit more hesitant in terms of buying stocks right now, and even said that he expects Berkshire's cash balance to go up to $200 billion this year. It's already at record levels, so obviously he's been a bit hesitant in terms of buying stocks right now, given how hot the market's been. But those are not the biggest moves. We had Chubb trimming the stake in Apple, selling off HP and Paramount, and those are not the biggest moves for Berkshire this past quarter.